This episode is brought to you by the Marine Corps Association and Foundation. Do you like to run? Do you like to walk? Do you like to bike? Like to go for a swim? You sound like a Marine. And you're in luck. You can do all of those things by participating in the Marine Corps Birthday Run. Join us in celebrating the Marine Corps' 249th birthday with the Run for Marines virtual 10K on November 10th, 2024. Whether you run, walk, bike, or swim, it's your chance to honor our Marines and the birth of our Corps. The first 100 participants get an exclusive racing pin. Sign up today at mca-marines.org/event/4-Marines-10K-4. Hey Scuttlebutt listeners, welcome to episode 165. This week, we welcome Isaac Lee to the show. Isaac Lee is a retired Marine CH-53 pilot and veteran of the Long War. He's also the author of the book Hangar 4, a combat aviator's memoir. Isaac's book takes a very vulnerable and transparent look at his life as a Marine, husband, and father, and we have the pleasure of being able to share his story. We talk about his upbringing in Lubbock, Texas, as an aspiring Major League Baseball player, how his desire for a continued sense of team brought him to the Yellow Footprints, his experiences in the cockpit, and the challenges of coming home and finding his team again. It's not often that we get the perspective of combat operations through the lens of a combat support aviator, so it's really cool being able to spend time with Isaac. And if you like us, please like us and give us a review. We'd love to get your feedback. Okay, here's episode 165. Hey Scuttlebutt listeners, thank you for joining us. I am Vic. I'm here with Nancy.
Hi, everyone.
And we are here in studio with author of the book Hangar 4, retired Lieutenant Colonel, USMC, hoorah, Isaac Lee. How you doing?
Good. Thank you all so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. So this book is really great. So we obviously, as the Marine Corps Association, focus a lot on professional development. And so we love to get all of these various perspectives. We've had machine gunners, we've had Cobra pilots, we've had... God, we haven't had any fixed-wing guys yet, have we?
Oh, we haven't. I'm on it. Let
Yeah.
me make a note.
Yeah, I got a buddy. We were talking about OCS, so a guy I went to OCS with. And I'm if you're listening, Ty Bartle, man, you got to let me know, man. But he flew... he was commander of the first F-35, so I think the last Harrier unit that became the F-35 guys.
Oh, very cool.
And he commanded them, so he's a Miramar guy, obviously. But anyhow, I digress, as I often do. But yeah, all of these very unique perspectives, and so I was thinking about when we had Colonel Buer on, gave his perspective of being a Cobra pilot.
Yep.
During. Do you know?
I do know him a little bit. Yeah, we weren't in the same unit, obviously, different communities, but crossed paths a couple times.
Yeah,
and we've
yeah.
spoken recently. Actually, he was very helpful to me when I was getting ready to publish this book.
That's awesome. Yeah, so we had talked about his book, his perspectives on that. But you, as a 53 guy, I think once again, like, provides such a unique perspective, being that sort of the Cobra guys are like the grunts of the sky or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, every time we went to go do something, I mean, 53s took us there, right? And
Yeah,
so, I mean,
absolutely.
you are, I mean, and it went from, actually putting us boots on the ground to giving us the child that we needed to picking us up when we really need to get the hell out of there, all of these sorts of things. So, again, thank you for coming on the show and thank you for writing this book.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. And that was one of my motivations really for writing the book is as an assault support pilot, I was a 53 guy. We used to joke and say, no one's ever going to know anything we did unless we screw it up, which is very true. So it was just kind of this thing that's happening in the background. But those squadrons, the 53 squadrons, we were in Iraq and Afghanistan nonstop for a couple of decades. So I really was happy that I was able to take the opportunity and capture at least some portion of that history, albeit through my own lens of what we did over the course of that time. Yeah,
I mean, the 53, I mean, it's iconic for the Marine Corps. I mean, I remember one of my SPCs at TBS was part of the Liberia NEO, right? And so,
Yeah.
53 guy doing that kind of stuff. So, I mean, not only is it iconic, but I mean, it is the heavy lift air air heavy lifting.
Absolutely. And we were able to get involved in a lot of like really call it more high speed things in
Yeah,
Iraq and Afghanistan that I don't think a lot of people realized that we were doing at the
yeah. I mean,
time and
you're
still don't
supporting the
realize that we
night. Was
did.
it
Yeah.
Night Riders
The
or
Night
Knocker
Stalkers,
Stalkers?
yeah,
Yeah.
we because they were so busy all the time, we would get, basically pick up, we used to call it their scraps or their overflow, but we ended up flying a lot of like really neat missions with task forces that didn't exist and,
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
kinds of cool stuff,
Yeah,
like
redact.
that
You got to
in the
redact. We're going to
background.
redact that later. So
Yeah, for sure.
Well, before we get into your book, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? We were mentioning before we started recording, like you and I were at OCS at the same
Yeah.
time. So I mean, I'm really interested to see like what was it like? Where did this coach's kid, like, how did you become, like, where was your path to the Yellow Footprints? And when
Of course. Honestly, it was kind of on a whim. I was an athlete growing up. My dad was a high school football and baseball coach in West Texas, so somewhat of a celebrity in my hometown of Lubbock, if you will.
No pressure there, right?
Yeah, of course. And so, my plan was, to be a Major League Baseball player, it
of
should
course,
be, right?
right?
At some point, I realized that probably wasn't going to happen, but I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I went to college, frankly, not because I wanted to. I just thought I was supposed to. Had no clue what I wanted to do. Ended up majoring in advertising and marketing again, just because like my buddy's dad was an advertising guy and he seemed like he was doing okay. That's as much
Yeah,
thought as I put
yeah.
into it. But it didn't take me long to figure out I didn't really want to do that. And the thing that I really missed was like just being part of a team. And that's kind of where the idea for joining the military originated with me.
Sure.
The idea of like, hey, well, you're not going to play sports anymore, but there are organizations in the military that are kind of like that. You might
Hmm.
kind of get that same feeling again. And that's sort of how I started thinking about it in the early stages. And then I kind of blew it off, to be honest with you. And then the summer after my junior year of college, I decided, okay, I definitely don't want to do this business stuff. Not right now, maybe
Yeah,
later.
right.
Went out to my parents' house, was chatting with my dad, told him that. His reaction was, what you'd expect from a man who's a high school football coach. He was kind of like, "What the hell are you thinking?" Just looked at me like I was an idiot. Went in the house, but from their driveway, you could see the landing pattern at Reese Air Force Base at the time, and I just said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to be a pilot in the military, and that was really kind of on a whim. I knew nothing about it when I made that comment, and then immediately started doing the research and the homework, and obviously figured it out. Made my way into the Marine Corps with an aviation contract.
Was that pre-Top Gun?
No, Top Gun had been out for a while,
Okay,
but I
okay.
wasn't even really into that, to be honest with you. Now, in fairness, I will tell you, I watched that movie probably 100 times in like
Yeah,
the
I
was
last
gonna
2
say,
months
yeah,
before I
yeah.
went to
Let's say,
OCS.
yeah,
like,
Great recruiting film,
Yeah.
once
right?
once you've raised your right
Yeah.
hand, you're like, let me see what this is all about.
exactly. Once I was committed and had an air contract, I was like, I should probably like learn
Like,
more about this.
But wait, Miramar doesn't look anything like Coronado. What the fuck is
Exactly.
going on in this movie?
So your
Yeah.
your dad was a little skeptical at first.
Oh, 100%.
How long did it take him to come around?
He came around pretty quick, but I'll tell you, like going off to join the Marine Corps and become an aviator was not something anyone that I knew had done. And there was no one in my hometown that I knew that had done that. And so every person I told,
Nice.
I'm going to do this, all looked at me like I was insane. I think besides my mother, nobody thought I could actually do it. Like, it was like,
Aw.
do you know like how hard that is? Have you ever seen what's in an airplane? Like, you're crazy. But the only thing that mattered was I thought I could do it, and so I just kind of stayed
That's
the course.
awesome.
That
Dude,
Yeah, I
that's
really
like,
just
that's
stayed
a
the course.
t-shirt.
yes, we need to
Yeah,
pull
only
that
thing that
clip out.
matters is I knew I could do it. I mean,
Yeah,
that's it.
so I just bet on myself and did everything I needed to do to get ready to go, and then took off to OCS summer '97. Was absolutely clueless when I got here to Quantico that
Ugh.
first time. Thankfully, just by the alphabet, I was next to Jones and Klosterman. Jones was a Citadel grad. Klosterman was prior
Oh,
enlisted.
nice.
They were both like rock stars in our platoon from day one. So my initial strategy was just to do whatever they were doing
Yeah,
and stay off the radar.
that's it,
And
man.
it worked.
Yeah,
And
I don't
it
want to be
worked.
the best. I don't want to be the
Yeah.
worst, man. Just I
Yeah,
need to
I
get
was
through this
I was
thing.
squarely invisible as much as I could be, except for laughing. I got yelled at for laughing a lot because I thought the drill instructors were hilarious.
Yeah.
So
I
I
got
would
that
often
too.
start to giggle
That didn't go over
at
well.
whatever they were saying, and then they come yell at me. And sometimes I would laugh more when they were yelling at me. But I got PT'd a little bit for that, but it was all
Yeah,
good.
yeah, I got the same.
And then
You think you're on summer break? You're just out there
Yeah.
smoking and joking.
Yeah,
My
for
middle
sure.
child was one of those. Whenever we yelled at him, he would start
He'd start
laughing, and the
laughing.
more the more he laughed, the madder I got. So
Absolutely.
I'm gonna take the side of the DIs on this. I'm not taking your side.
I don't blame you. But yeah, did all that, went over, to the other side of 95 for the basic school. Had an awesome platoon commander over there, a captain named Randy Soriano. He's still the most quotable Marine I ever knew. The guy was another one. He was hilarious, even when I don't think he was actually trying to be hilarious, but he was. Um,
What does he said in the book? He was like the hardest motherfucker in the Marine Corps or
yeah, he
something
used
like
to
that.
joke and say that all the time. Yeah. The hardest Marine in second Mar Div, quite possibly the entire Marine Corps. Yeah, he used to just talk shit to us all the time. He was great. He was an awesome guy. And then from there went on to flight school, which is just 2 years of never-ending graded events, and you're just praying you don't fail anything because a couple of those and you're out of there. But
Yeah.
it went well. Ended up selecting helicopters. Honestly, just because in the first stage of flight school, I met a Marine Corps major who was there. I still don't know why he was there. He was way too qualified to be there, but he was a Cobra pilot, and he was like a total badass, and we all wanted to be him. So after getting to fly with him a few times, I was like, all right, helicopters, it's going to be. Then finished up and ultimately selected 53s. And with the 53, I was really just attracted to the crew concept of it. Like I like the idea of flying with another pilot, having enlisted air crew in the back. That whole teamwork element, if you
Yeah.
will, was appealing, and ended up being a great fit for me.
That's awesome. And then, so you talked a little bit about meeting your wife. I thought that was really interesting too.
Yeah.
How it was a friend of the family, right? And
Yeah, yeah. So my parents were friends with what are now my brother and sister-in-law when I was in college. My brother and sister-in-law had moved to Texas. She was getting her doctorate at the time at Texas Tech, and her sister-in-law, or my brother and sister-in-law are about 10 years older than us. My parents are a little younger, so they were kind of in the same age bracket. So they were
Mhm.
just friends. And then when I decided to go to OCS, they're from here, so they were like, "Hey, our parents are there. They'll come pick you up and go to their house on the weekends or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
do your
yeah.
laundry and whatnot." And that's how I ended up meeting my wife.
That's so
Super
cool.
random.
Yeah.
But so we started dating when I was here at TBS, and then took off for flight school. And I would say she'd probably tell you today she made a huge mistake. Started following me around, and a couple of decades later, here we are. Yeah.
That's really cool. So to talk about your book then, one of the things that really stood out to me, and obviously very early on, you have your sort of your playlist, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
jumped out at me right away
yeah,
too.
Yeah.
and
Love
I
the
thought
playlist.
I really thought that was a very unique, interesting sort of intro into the book, because then of course I immediately went
Yeah.
to what the
Yes.
playlist was. Like I
Same.
didn't even so before I even knew what the chapters were called, I wanted to see like
Yeah.
what is your sort of your playlist for this, your soundtrack.
Your
And yeah, a
walk-up song.
lot of Metallica, and
Yes,
my
it is
doff of
Metallica
the
heavy.
doff to the cap there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is it about sort of music? It's very easy. You hear it like colloquially. We use phrases and axioms that I don't think we really know what it actually means. We don't put a lot of thought into it, but it makes for a great tweet or whatever. But
Yeah.
your soundtrack of your life, right? Like,
Yep.
how much has, like, even growing up, like how much was music part of that
It,
soundtrack
for me
you?
personally, it's always been a big part of my life, and my parents turned me onto that. Like our house growing up, there was always classic rock being played on the stereo, so I just grew up kind of immersed in it, got into it myself. And then over the course of my life, you're just into different albums, different artists at different times. But I kept a journal the whole time I was in the Marine Corps, and one of the things I would make notes of in there is what I was sort of listening to at the time.
Oh,
So
that's so
so I
cool.
had it.
Yeah.
So when I went to put the book together, what I originally did before I found out I couldn't was the beginning of each chapter had an actual line from those
Oh
songs in
yeah,
it
that gets
wow.
expensive.
that set the stage
Yeah.
for the chapter.
That would have been
Um,
cool. Yeah.
and then when I got into the publishing process, I learned quickly that you can't do that. You can
Mhm.
list the name of the song title and the artist, but you can't actually quote the
Quote. Yep.
song
That's
if you don't have the
proprietary.
rights to it.
Yep.
So then it didn't make sense to have it at the beginning of the chapter anymore. So I just consolidated it to a playlist in the back, and then have since on social media, one at a time, released like these little like posts that explain why this song for this chapter.
Yeah, yeah.
But they all line up with the chapter in some way, and they were all songs I was listening to at that time because they were applicable to whatever was going on.
I think the playlist is even better. It's a little bit more compelling than having I get it, a literary tool. It'd be really
Yeah.
nice to start the chapter with those song quotes. But what a great way to, to bring people in a different way by giving them a
Yeah, for sure.
playlist.
Yeah.
It's like the literary version of a mixtape.
Yeah, it is. And it's been pretty neat. Like, and it was something, once I ended up just putting it in the back matter of the book, I actually thought to myself, like, no one's even going to notice this is here.
First
And
thing I noticed.
I can't
Exactly.
tell you how many people have asked me about it and circled back. So it's been really cool that it had the effect that it did.
Yeah, I mean, we're all of the age where, handing someone a mixtape was a big deal. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
that you're really making yourself vulnerable in that
Yeah.
moment. If you hand someone a mixtape and they chuck it, you're like, it's like
Yeah,
punches in the
totally.
gut, right? Like, I don't even know what you could equate it to now for our younger listeners to even fully understand it. It'd be like, posting the bomb Instagram post and not getting any likes or something, right? So I mean, in that way, I guess, and I'm glad that you mentioned it, is that it made things. It's like I feel like literature is a collaborative process, anyways, because like with any kind of art, like once I release the art, it's not mine anymore. Obviously,
course.
lawyers will have a much different take on it, but creatively, it's no like how you interpret, how you read, how you absorb, how you take in this art that I've created. That's yours now. Like I have no say in it. I can
Absolutely.
solicit for feedback and appreciate it, but it's now your property. And I think when you then include music in it as well, it's almost as if we're kind of sharing
Yes.
in this moment. It makes it very accessible. It's so cool. I think it was a great
Yeah,
tool.
thank you very much. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
And especially for those of us who also connect with a lot of those songs
Yeah.
on your playlist, I can kind of think what those songs are for me in my personal playlist, and compare and contrast.
Yeah.
To me, there is nothing quite like music, a song, to put you back in the frame of mind you were in when you first heard that song.
Same. And I'll tell you, when I was in the writing process of literally writing this, I was constantly listening to music
Yeah,
as I was
yeah.
doing it, because it would sort of take me back to that time.
Yeah, when I
So
write, I
those
do the
specific
same
things,
thing.
I'd be like, okay, we're in 2003. I was listening to this, and I would literally play that music while I was writing.
Yeah, yeah.
Sets the tone and sets the mood beautifully.
Absolutely. Yeah, it
Very
really
cool
does.
idea. Very cool
Yeah,
idea.
thank you.
And so does it still have? I think you've kind of already answered this, but I mean in a more direct manner. Like it still has influence. Like it's a way for you to access not only memories but emotions,
Absolutely.
relationships.
Yeah, and there are even, there's some songs in there that are of a totally different variety and genre, but were applicable to that time, especially around coming home and making those transitions from last week I was in Iraq fighting and flying, and now I'm standing in line at the grocery store and trying
Yeah.
to figure out how to get along with my wife and kid again. So
Right.
Yeah.
so the mood of that music changes as the mood of that portion of the story changes as well.
Yeah, I thought the one that stood out to me that I thought was hilarious, and this obviously, like I hadn't even read the book
Yeah.
before, I saw this first. But you have, your chapter 17 is called Heavy Metal,
Yeah.
but then your song is With or Without You by
Yeah.
U2. I'm
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
well, I got to read this chapter
Yeah.
now. Like that's hilarious.
Yeah, because that chapter, I was at Mott's 1 at the time as an instructor, and heavy metal was the call sign for the 53 division. But at that time in my life, that chapter really focuses on how, frankly, my wife and I were trying to figure out just how to get along again.
Yeah.
Because I'd just done 3 deployments to Iraq. I'd been gone a lot. We had a young daughter that I'd basically missed out on the first 3 years of her life. So that was kind of where my head was. And so the song for that chapter is more focused on that aspect of it than the Marine Corps and flying and all that stuff.
Well, and to jump into that and move forward a little bit, you also wrote about how you were the master of
Yes,
compartmentalizing.
for
So
sure.
Interesting. Yeah.
so then how difficult was it to stop compartmentalizing when you came home and were reintegrating
To
with
be
your
honest, I
family?
couldn't. So I really couldn't. And I included call it the personal aspect of my story in the book, which was a deliberate choice and one that I know not everybody makes for a lot of reasons. But it was important to me, if I was going to share the story from my perspective, to put everything in there so that just whoever reads it can hopefully absorb the call it the totality of the experience, right? Like, yes, you're
Hmm.
doing all these Marine Corps things and having all these adventures, and at the same time, you're still trying to be a half normal dude at home,
Right.
right? Like,
Right.
be a
Right.
decent husband, be a decent dad, and not appear to be insane to your neighbors or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I honestly, once I got into that mode, I couldn't get out of it. And it was really challenging for me in my personal life. And I used to joke and say, like, I go into machine mode or I'm a robot, but I was very much that way. And I just got so compartmentalized while I was doing it. It was necessary for the job,
Yeah.
but I also became aware of it, but I didn't want to mess with that because I felt like that formula, that version of me, was exactly who I needed to be in the Marine Corps.
It made you successful and good at what you
Well,
were doing.
well, yeah, and then even to take that a step further, it kept me and other people around me alive.
Yeah.
And I was concerned that if I tried to start unpacking that while I was still doing it, that it would have a negative ripple effect into the cockpit, and that 1 or 2 seconds of indecision or hesitation, or if I wasn't just being super aggressive, super bold, totally fearless, that I might screw around and get myself killed. Like, that was just like, I felt like that's how you have to fight. You have to be in that mindset to fight, and fly and do those things. And I really couldn't come out of it. And I didn't even start to come out of it until I transitioned out and decided I was going to transition out.
I think that compartmentalizing is, uh, and I speak as not anywhere close to an expert on the subject at all, but I think it is important in the aviation community in general because even if you're just going for a flight around the pattern, you still have to be locked
Absolutely.
in. You still have to go through that checklist the same
Yeah.
way every single time. You still have to do the pre-flight
Yep.
just as locked in every time. And I'm in an aviation family. I don't fly, but I see my my air crew, my personal private air crew. I see how locked in they get. And I watched my husband teach my son from the time he was a little kid, and I would hear them as they were going out the door, and he'd say, you're not thinking about flying. You need to get locked in the moment you know that's what we're going to do today. You don't wait till you get
Yep.
out to the airplane. And so I watched it and I envy it because I like can't compartmentalize anything. I'm all over the place. But I have watched it, observed it, and have seen how valuable it is in mission accomplishment. Even again, if it is just, hey, let's go for a fun flight,
Yep.
to this other airport here and get something to eat. You still have to be just as locked in.
Yeah, you do. It's a very unique occupation, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
Especially, I think, in a military context, and even more so once you're in a combat situation. There's just so many things happening at any given time, and you have to absorb all of that information continuously, be processing it, making decisions. It's neat. I
I
mean,
have
it's neat to get to where you can do it.
spent hundreds of hours sitting in the back seat just listening and learning to shut up because it's not in my nature to not shut up. I mean, I've learned and I've watched them, and again admire, respect, and envy it because I can't do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I found it very difficult to think of all of the things that I brought back with me on my deployments was, um, like, in a similar way, but not as much. Like the checklists for us on the ground. Obviously, you have your pre-combat checks, pre-combat inspections, vitally important because you don't want to have a dead battery if your patrol got extended out longer and now it's
Right.
getting night and now you realize my batteries don't work and so I have no NVGs. Like,
Right.
so those are very important, but not to the same extent as someone operating a 53-ton metal vehicle that flies. Are you fucking kidding? That doesn't have wings, but it flies. Like,
Of course.
what is happening? But at the same time, and I think you've touched on this a little bit, so I'm sure you can appreciate, but that idea of the crew or the team, the squad, the platoon, company. But the biggest stressor that I brought home with me that I still can't really let go of is the idea that, like, dude, you could shoot at me, you could try to blow me up, you could kick me in the balls, you could spit on me, that's fine, but you don't touch these guys.
Yeah.
And that stress of every time as the company commander going and looking at the patrol list, see who's going out, did they get enough sleep, are they fucking fed, is anything going on at home that's going to distract them
Yep.
from what they got to do? How long have they been out? Shit, that was supposed to be a 4-hour patrol. It's 4 hours and 30 minutes now. Where the fuck are they? All right, tomorrow I'm going out with these guys. Hey, Sergeant Snyder, you're the man, but I'm going to go out with you. I just need to be out with you guys.
Yeah.
Just treat, obviously don't treat me like a PFC, but in the patrol order, you're the man, dude.
Yep.
Like, don't let me step on your dick. And like all these sorts of things. And then that was the hardest thing. And I like I said, I don't think I have let go of that, because the hardest thing would have been fucking he's guy's not coming home now. And that I don't know if I could have how much I could have taken.
There were
that,
two other elements for me that made it really challenging as well. And one, I'll say, like, I developed, and I still think of it this way, what I think of as an addiction to combat flying. And, in the early stages of that, my first combat deployment, you start out like a normal person, like scared, frankly, right?
Yeah.
You're like, holy shit, we're going to do this thing, and it's real.
Yeah, unless you're a psychopath or completely
Yeah.
oblivious.
But I quickly realized like that I liked it, like that rush of adrenaline and all the things that happen basically just in your brain. I loved it, and I wanted more of it and more of it. And in the early stages of that, I thought I was crazy, honestly. I was like, this isn't normal. You're not supposed to like this. Something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
No, I think that is normal.
And then over time, I kind of started to I accepted that. But the other thing that was really hard for me coming home, and I know this is to this day a challenging thing for my family to hear, but I still describe it as it's like you're playing a football game, and in the middle of the third quarter, someone tells you, hey, you can't play anymore, and you have to leave the stadium, and you can't watch on TV, or you can't listen on the radio. The game is still happening, but you're not there, and you don't know what's going on. So those transitions from one day you're in Iraq or Afghanistan, and everything you're doing in life while you're there is to support those Marines on the ground. And then a week later, you're standing in line at the grocery store back in the States, and it's like, what the hell am I doing here? You're looking around, and all these people are just going on about their business. And in my mind, I was like, what's wrong with you people? Like, there's literally a war happening on the other side of the planet, and you don't care. You're oblivious. And they weren't doing anything wrong, of course.
Buying
But
Cheerios.
yeah, but to me, it was just like this. It was so hard to watch that and to feel like the society around you doesn't know, doesn't care, is oblivious to what's happening, but still personally feeling like that's where I'm supposed to be. Like, I'm a Marine. I'm supposed to be over there fighting with the other Marines all the time.
Yeah.
And so it was always tricky for me to come home and then transition back out of that. I mean, even though you're still in the squadron and you're still flying and doing all those things, it's just different.
No, I get it. I mean, you go
like,
quite honest, like, almost quite literally, you go one day from like, hey, we're like, the most important thing today is we've got a HVI in our area, and we're going to go take them out. And then 30 days later, the most important thing is our windows aren't a tight enough seal, and we're losing our AC. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like that's the most important thing I got to worry about today? Yeah.
Those day-to-day life things, it was just hard to get back and frankly care about them. It was hard. I mean, you're excited to see your family. It's nice to be home. You get all your creature comforts back. So that part was cool, but there was just this something inside of you that would always miss it. I was like, man, I'm supposed to, I should still be over there.
Yeah. There's no adrenaline rush in starting this fucking lawnmower.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need a checklist for this lawnmower.
Not at all. Yeah.
So what advice, looking back now, what advice would you have for your younger self or for today's Marine? What are your tips?
I don't know that I certainly didn't navigate it great, or, I think everyone does the best they can. I certainly think that's the case for my wife and I. And we both we had as much bandwidth as we had, and we did the best we could do with it. I don't know that there's a perfect way to do it, and honestly, I don't know if that I would do it any different because, kind of like I said earlier, it was sort of this formula I had, or the way I thought of it was like, this is me, and this version of me works, and this version of me keeps myself and other people alive. So this is just how it's going to have to be, and that was, or I should say, resulted in a lot of headbutting, if you want to call it
For
that, at
sure.
home
Well,
at
I was actually
times.
gonna I was gonna put that onto you a little bit there, Nancy, because one of the things that I found, and which as we're talking about compartmentalization, is our loved ones back home compartmentalize too, because
Yeah,
just because we're gone. I mean, you even mentioned a little bit in your book, like, Carrie has no idea that I'm getting ready to go
yeah,
do this fucking high speed mission, right? Like her, the alligators closest to the boat are a
yeah. Kids
child
and doing
and
day to day
paying the
things, and
bills. Yeah,
yeah,
do it. And so they compartmentalize and then they have the routine, right?
yep,
Because they can't just sit and cry that you're not,
of course,
or maybe you cry a little bit, but that doesn't, the day is going to continue on. The child
yeah,
still needs to be cared for. The bills still need to be paid. And so now all of a sudden you're back and
yep,
you're like, the hero has
yeah,
returned. They're like, that's great, but I got to go get formula
yeah.
diapers, and
And
take kids to
And it
daycare.
was disruptive
Yeah.
for her and the kids too, because frankly, they get used to you not being
Right.
there. And
Right.
so they get into their own routine without you. And then, like, this is kind of a silly example, but I'll tell you, for some reason, right when I would get home, I'd always start rearranging things in the refrigerator because my wife and children are not, or they're not
You're already
particularly
getting the head
organized
shake.
people. Yeah. So I would start like tidying
Yeah.
up the refrigerator, and it would always make her so mad. She'd be like, "Damn it, that refrigerator was fine while you were gone.
I'm seeing a
You
red
don't,
mist right
you
now.
don't have to do that. What the hell's wrong with you?" I mean, but it was things like that. It's
Yeah.
like these
No.
seemingly little things where you come back into the household, you start doing it different than it was being done while
Yeah.
you were gone, and that in of itself is disruptive and causes conflict.
Yeah.
And
Like, well, I was going to make eggs today. Like, well, it's Wednesday. We have
yeah,
cereal on
yeah,
Wednesdays. You're like,
it's
oh man,
it's
I'm a sojourner. So yeah. How was that? I mean, from your perspective, what is that
Well,
compartmentalization like?
I mean, we had a different, a different sort of situation, because my husband retired in 2003, and so never deployed to the
yeah,
Middle East. And I'm trying to really think back. It's been so long because his last assignment was at Southcom, and he traveled all over the Southcom AOR while I was at home with the kids. Now, you know what the Southcom AOR is?
yeah,
The Virgin Islands, the
Bahamas.
Bahamas,
Yeah.
um,
Costa Rica.
yeah, Costa Rica. And he'd call me. He'd be like, "Hey, I'm looking out on the balcony of my hotel. I just had a drink with so and so. We had these meetings," and I was just like, I got a surly teenager who's, I can't talk to you right now, but
yeah,
I had a different routine to kind of lead turn that, and also because I was a step parent, a custodial step parent to my oldest two, which added a whole new element
yeah,
of crazy. So when their dad would leave, there was a whole new level of trauma, and I'm not gonna air.
School's out.
not
Speaking of
gonna
soundtracks,
yeah,
right? Like
I'm
Alice
not
Cooper
gonna
starts blaring.
put the dirty laundry out there, but so I'd have to make it. I'd have to make it fun when
yeah,
dad was gone. And so we had what we called, it was like TDY menu. So breakfast for dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eating
Runner.
at,
Yeah.
totally. Just eating at the places or eating the types of food that he hated. So
Mhm.
there was a clear line between when dad was traveling and when dad was home. It was
Yeah.
like the dad's traveling routine, the dad's home routine. And I think that did help us a little with any kind of reintegration, but it was constant. It was like a week here, 2 weeks there, 3 weeks there, instead of a set beginning and end, which
Yeah.
also made it very complicated. So it almost would have been easier
Yeah.
if there had just been like, okay, I'm going to be gone for 6 months, and then but that's not how it was.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was complicated.
It is.
But then the other part of it is, even when he was an instructor, a flight instructor at Pensacola, anytime I knew in the morning, like, what are you doing today? Do you have any flights today? there's always that, that thing in the back of your
Yep.
mind for the even now, just as a civilian, when I know he's going out and taking the airplane up and going for a flight, like, okay, I know how much time it takes to do the pre-flight. I know where he's going. I know what the tie down routine is like.
Yep.
I know when do I start looking at my watch and going, why aren't you home yet?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, those sorts of complications still exist, or
Yeah.
those sorts of situations exist. You just have to learn how to live in that, or you're gonna go crazy.
You do. And I certainly didn't do it perfectly and frankly even well at times. But I did feel like it was important to include that aspect of it in the book because it's such a huge aspect of it for everyone
Sure.
who does it. And I would tell you one of the most rewarding things that's happened thus far since the book's been out. Obviously, a lot of Marines have reached out and said, hey, thanks, this is great, whatever. And that's amazing. But the thing that has really surprised me is I've had several spouses that I don't know that have reached out to me and say, hey, thank you for writing this. I understand my husband better now. And that's been really neat. Like
That's
to
awesome.
know that at least is giving other people a window into what's actually happening in your head and how you're doing all these things, because as Marines, I think especially, we're not good about talking about those things. You just
Worst.
do it. You don't say anything. You're going about your business, and just between us as Marines, I mean, geez, I can't tell you how many times it was like, "Hey, don't be a puss," or it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
never-ending. I used to call it a big dick contest. It just never
Yeah,
ends, right? I
that's
mean, that's
it.
what Marines do. You're just always one-upping each other, and who's the toughest guy here, and nothing phases us, and that's great, and it's necessary for the mission, but it's also not conducive to just frankly taking care of yourself over time. Uh, you have to kind of get some of that stuff out and figure out how to appropriately try to process it. Easier said than done,
Yeah, for
because
Yeah,
sure.
as a Marine,
yeah,
your default is just to talk shit to each other and drink beer. Like
yeah, yeah.
that's therapy.
There is, but there
Sure.
is some therapy in that. I mean, I think
For
a
sure.
lot of the data that we're seeing is that when veterans are on that lonely island, they don't have that. There's not. I mean, not to say I'm not putting a. This is going to sound judgmental, but I'm not putting any sort of condemnation on it. But I mean, the society has just changed.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
You can't. I mean, it's not acceptable in a wide range to be Marine-ish
Yeah,
when you're not around a bunch of Marines, right?
What
And
do they
so
call that now? Toxic masculinity.
I think it is. Yeah, it's definitely. Yeah, I mean, it'll get you drunk.
yeah.
But yeah, there's there's a there's some poison in the blood, but yeah, so having that ability. I
Yeah.
mean, we've talked. I think we were talking earlier about PB Abate and Sheepdog and these organizations that really, at the crux of it, there are activities involved, because you can't just like it's not enough to just sit around.
Of
But
course.
the sitting around part is so critical, so crucial, so that you can do the shit talking, because then once you have lowered those defenses, then it's okay to be vulnerable.
Yep.
Then you can start to talk about stuff, and then you can really start looking at growth and healing.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and also when you all are, even if you're just sitting and not talking, you don't have to explain.
Right.
You
Yeah.
don't have to explain. I went to a reunion for VMO6 back in October, and Vietnam veterans, and they were talking about how great it was to be around each other at a reunion, not because partly because they didn't have to tell each other their stories, like explain
Right.
what happened or what I did or what I went through or what I experienced, because even if they hadn't served in the same time frame, each knew what the other had gone through. So it wasn't like telling your story or explaining it. It was, you automatically know, like you two meeting each
Yeah.
other today, you automatically start out
Yep.
in common ground. Like
Absolutely.
you know where he's coming from and he knows where you're coming from.
Yep.
Just because of having the common experience.
Absolutely. And there's just so much comfort in that. I mean, yeah, and meeting Vic's a perfect example. Like within seconds, you're like, oh, I can say literally anything to this guy and it's going to be okay. Like, like there's nothing
That's
I'm
because
going to
he's a
say to him.
Padres fan,
Yeah.
though, right?
Yeah,
Let's get real.
Well, and also too, I may not respond well, but I am listening.
Yeah, totally. But it's just that common ground, and it is nice to have that. And I do think it's been really important for me to stay involved, plugged into the Marine Corps in various ways since I transitioned out. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's why it's that human element that's important to stay tied to, frankly.
Well, and I guess in dovetailing into some of the genesis of the book, and because you'd mentioned when you were writing your journals on
Yep.
your deployment, that one of the thoughts behind this was, well, if the kids ever are
Yep.
curious about what Papa Bear did,
Yeah.
while we were out, and you didn't call yourself Papa Bear in
Yeah.
the book, but there'll at least be a sort of a legacy of my thoughts. You mentioned even the
For sure.
music part of
Yep.
it, like this is what I was going through at the time.
Yep.
So what was the process then of taking those journals and then turning it into a book? Like how
Yeah, so
difficult was that?
it was a great project. It was very therapeutic for me, personally. But I just got to this point where, I transitioned out in 2017. I got busy with the next phase of life. I'm starting a new career. I got all these other things going on. And I hadn't even looked at it for a few years. But really what happened was in 2021, I started hearing about just a lot of Marines I knew that were having a hard time outside of the Marine Corps. They transitioned out, and a lot of people were having, marriage issues, can't hold down a job, substance abuse problems, all these things.
Right.
Very predictable, considering that we'd spent the last, several years fighting a war. And so initially I was just kind of reaching out to people. You're just trying to be like a good friend. And then I finally one day just kind of had this idea like, well, maybe if I take my journal and turn it into a book, it will somehow be helpful to other people. If for no other reason, then they'll at least find some common ground with the experience and,
Right.
kind of how this played out. So that was a big motivator. And the other piece was just no one had written about assault support in the Marine Corps in a really long time. And so it was an opportunity to capture some of that history, obviously from the lens of the 53 community that I was part of. And so once I had that, then I was like, okay, I think I'm going to do this. But it was really important to me to have a couple of story arcs. One of them obviously being the home piece, which is kind of an underlying story arc throughout. But the other one was just to be really honest about what I think of as the personal transformation I went through as a human being, from showing up as a wide-eyed, nervous kid at, OCS to get through flight school, get to the fleet, and you're all super motivated and think you know everything, but you don't. And then you get some experience, go to combat a couple times, and then you turn into this iron captain who's a total smartass that thinks all majors and above have lost their minds and don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Then you become one of those guys,
Yeah,
and you're like,
yeah.
oh shit, now I'm a major, I gotta hate myself. And then ultimately end up becoming the CEO of the squadron. But because I had the journal, I was able to offer the perspective and whatever level of situational awareness I had at that time in the story. And I stuck to that throughout, even in cases where I now know, like, oh, you screwed that up, or you shouldn't have done that, or
Yeah.
that was a dumb thing to say. I just wanted to offer it as like, at that time and place, this is what I was thinking. This is what I was aware of. This is what I was doing. This is what I thought about it. And then really just kind of be totally open about that personal transformation that I went through, and becoming like, oh wow, I'm like addicted to this. I love it. It's great. Wait, am I crazy? I shouldn't like this.
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
accepting that you do, and then unpacking that on the backside. Like, okay, now I need to go make sure I'm really not crazy.
Yeah, yeah. What do we do with this
Yeah.
information? Now, yeah, it's not just data, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was just such a unique experience, I thought. I mean, and it's obviously not unique to me. All Marines have had almost the exact same experience, but just to share with anybody, like, hey, this is kind of what it's like. This is what you go through. This is who I
Yeah.
became. This is how I became that person. But it was neat to just take all the, I mean, because I have hundreds and hundreds of pages journal, so I had to be pretty smart about putting it together in a book. I mean, there's enough information I could have written 3 books, frankly, but to hit the appropriate, call it most important pieces of the story and the timeline, and keep it all weaved together it was a
Yeah.
good project. But I've told people the key to it is just a great outline. Like anything else, you got to
Sure.
have a great plan when you
You got to have a
start.
skeleton on
Yeah,
it, right? Before
yeah.
you start working the muscles.
If you don't have a great outline, you have
Yeah.
no chance of writing a decent book. So it worked out, but it was a really rewarding project. It took me about a year to write it, and because I still have a life and a job and
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
else.
yeah.
So I was doing this at like evenings and weekends. So it took about a year to write it. And then I had to send it to the Pentagon has this office, the Department of Defense Office of Pre-Publication Security Review. They have to review it to make sure that nothing in there shouldn't be in there. Um, Settled on a publisher while they had it, and then got it back from the Pentagon in the summer of 22. And then that's when I went to work with a professional editor and my publisher and got it out this spring. So it was about 6 months from when we got it back from the Pentagon until we had it polished up and ready to go to print. Pretty interesting process.
That's cool. That's really
Yeah.
cool. How's the reception been?
Took the words right out of my
Yeah,
mouth.
that's
So
what I
far
do.
it's been good. I really didn't have any expectations for it per se. You know, I certainly didn't write it because thought I was going to sell 1 million books
Mhm.
or get rich or anything like that. I just wanted to share the story, but it's actually done a lot better than I expected. It's like it's done well sales wise. Had a lot of people reach out since it's been out, and that's all been very positive. Just recently found out that it won an award from the Military Writers Society of America.
Oh,
that's
very
awesome.
cool.
Yeah. So I don't know exactly which award. I have to show up at a banquet in September to find out
Nice.
whether that's a gold, silver,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
bronze.
Keep your ear to the
But,
street and make sure they call your
yeah,
name. That you
yeah.
know the
No,
person
they
they're
just
talking
send me
about.
a notification, say, hey, you won an award. So
That's very
we
That's
cool.
so
won't tell
cool.
you which
Congrats.
one it is until you come to this
Oh,
this thing in September. But yeah, so it's been received well.
maybe it's like Squid Game.
all
man.
the
You gotta be
reviews,
careful.
all the reviews have been resoundingly positive. So
Yeah.
So
How about
far,
from
so
the
good.
fam though? Like those are the biggest critics, right?
honestly, the most of the feedback we've received from family has really been along the lines of, "Oh my gosh, we had no idea that this is what you guys had on your plate." Like that's been the
Really?
resounding
Yeah.
feedback from like
And
all
I mean,
of our
Carrie's read it. I
parents.
take it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
is she? How does she
I
feel about
I would
it?
say she was. How should
Yeah,
how
because
should
this
I
is one of the
describe this?
interesting things. Like when I was going through my writing program, the biggest thing, especially you're talking like creative nonfiction, memoir especially, was they only have as much agency as you're willing to give them,
Yep.
and that can be very can make people very prickly.
Yes, I would tell you. I mean, it was important to me to include the family aspect of the story, and obviously, I had to get her buy-in to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I think she was very hesitant initially for obvious reasons,
yeah,
right? Like, hey, you're
right.
really going to talk about these things out in public. Who's going to actually who's
Yeah,
going to read
yeah,
this?
yeah, yeah.
But she warmed up to it, I think, and got more comfortable, the closer we got. And then I'll tell you, like, for about 48 hours before it released was the only time I felt like a little apprehensive. And it was like,
Yeah.
oh shit,
Yeah,
this is
this is gonna
actually going to be out there.
happen.
Like,
Yeah.
who's going to get a hold of this thing? And what are they
Careful
going
what
to
you wish
what are they
for,
going
sort
to
of thing.
think?
Yeah.
Is my neighbor down the street going to read this and then think I'm crazy and look at me like, tell me to stay away from his house? You just don't know what to
Yeah.
expect. But the feedback I think for everybody has been very positive, and has been for Carrie as well. So that's been a good
Good,
experience so
good.
far. Yeah.
Well, and
Awesome.
you're here in the area to be around your community.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah,
and-
for sure. So Papa Smoke is an organization that's been around for years, and it's a bunch of former Marine Corps, combat helicopter pilots. They get together every couple years for a union. And so as I was publishing this, back in the spring, John Raffini, who runs Papa Smoke now, reached out to me and was like, "Hey, you should come to the reunion and sign books." And I was like, "Yeah, sounds great." So I was looking for a reason, frankly, to come back to the Quantico area as well. I've been trying to get around to call it the primary Marine Corps hubs. So I live in San Diego, so doing stuff in and around Miramar is easy, and Camp Pendleton. Went down to New River in June for an event down there, so I was able to touch that area. So getting up here to Quantico has been great. So I'll be here through the weekend at the Papa Smoke reunion.
Nice.
It'll be interesting to hear the feedback from your fellow combat helicopter pilots,
For
how
sure.
they receive the book.
Yeah, and especially for that generation, because most of the people that come to Papa Smoke are still Vietnam era guys.
Yeah. It's a great name for an organization.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a bunch of weed heads out there that are like, they beat us to it.
Yeah, but it's really cool. So I was there yesterday evening. Obviously, when we're down here today, I'll head back up there, spend the next couple of days just signing books and talking to people. Should be a good event.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. Well, thank you for coming in and leaving, beautiful sunny, wonderful San Diego.
Of course.
To join us today, I think we got one more
Yeah, I
question
gotta
for
ask.
you, though.
I gotta ask my favorite question. What was your best day in the Marine Corps?
Oh, that one's pretty easy for me. March 20th, 2011. So I was in Afghanistan, combat deployment. We were doing a ton of stuff, and the deployment it got off to kind of a rough start for the unit. And at the time, our unit that I was a part of, it was actually half a squadron from the East Coast and half a squadron from the West Coast, and they mashed us together as one unit. And predictably, there were some challenges associated with that, but ultimately what happened was the Night Stalkers, the Task Force 160th, the Army Special Ops Aviation, they're the only Special Ops Aviation unit in the United States military. They were running some super secret raid out on the Pakistani border and rolled a CH-47 over, and we got tasked with trying to recover that aircraft. So tactical recovery of aircraft and personnel. But for a 53 guy, for me, it's like the ultimate mission, right? Long range, heavy lift, deep into bad guy country, serious threat. So just the planning and execution for that was incredible. And, I got the first phone call. I was the operations officer in the squadron at the time. It was about 2:00 in the morning, started working the problem, briefed the general the next morning. Someone there took a nap by 2200 the next night. We're briefing it and going, and successfully executed that mission. And so on that day, I knew, as soon as that was done, I was like, okay, I just jumped the shark as an aviator. There's no upping this one. That was as extreme and crazy as it gets for a 53 pilot. There's nothing else will ever come up that will top that. So to do that and successfully execute it was for sure my best day by far.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a great sense of satisfaction.
That's great.
Yeah, I will tell you, obviously, being a squadron commander was amazing too, and God love the Marines, and that was an amazing experience. But just as a Marine in your MOS doing your job, that Afghanistan mission
doing your job
took
at
the
that
cake.
level, yeah.
Totally.
Because obviously, if that goes pear-shaped, man, that's an international incident. Like a modifier.
Yeah,
right?
it was either gonna end up awesome or terrible. There was no
Right,
middle.
right.
Yeah, one or the other for sure. It was super cool. Yeah, awesome that we did it.
Well, Isaac, thank you so much, man, for coming in.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for
and
joining us today.
sharing your
Yeah.
story with us. So everybody listening, please go check out Hangar 4, a combat aviator's memoir by Isaac Lee, Lieutenant Colonel retired. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course.
And
Thank you guys for having me.
Where can people find
Oh
you?
yeah, socials.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty easy to find on the socials. The easiest way to do it is just go to my website, which is isaacglee.com, and then the top right corner links to all of my other social media. And the playlist we were talking about is on that website too.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
And
so-
then you get the book Amazon.
Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com are the easiest places to get it quickly. And then obviously you can check my socials too. I do sign copies every now and then and mail them out for people who are interested, that sort of
Nice.
thing as well. So if people are interested in that, I'm always happy to try to accommodate.
We could put a link in the.
Oh, we're
show
gonna
notes,
link
right?
all
Yeah,
this
yeah,
stuff in the
yeah,
show
yeah.
description.
Yeah.
When
Yeah,
we
that'd be
put this
great.
out. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
absolutely. Well, thanks again, man,
Of
and have a
course.
good time at the reunion.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. Appreciate it.
Units all over the world engage in professional military education experiences with the Marine Corps Association's help. Marines learn from historic battles ranging from the D-Day landing at Normandy and Marine amphibious landings on Pacific Islands to the Battle of Marathon between Athenians and Persians in 490 BC to military engagements in the Korean and Vietnam Wars to battles which took place in the United States during the Revolution and Civil War. Discussing the operational, cultural, and historical significance of battlefield experiences is an invaluable learning tool for expanding a Marine's knowledge and preparedness for future missions. While the character of warfare changes, the nature of it does not. The opportunity to explore the decisions made or ignored in battles throughout history, the opportunities gained or lost by leaders in past combat experiences, is invaluable as a tool for facing today's military challenges. Learn more about this MCA program for Marines at mca-marines.org/battle-study-packages. That's mca-marines.org/battle-study-packages. Scuttlebutt is a production of the Marine Corps Association. You have heard the voices or contributions from Major Vic Rubel, USMC retired, Nancy Litchman, William Truding, and our guest. Ty Frazier is the editor, sound engineer, and technical producer. The Marine Corps Association is not an agency of the U.S. government. The opinions expressed in this episode are the personal views of the participants and do not reflect the official position of the United States Marine Corps, the Department of Defense, or the Marine Corps Association.